Shalom and welcome to our third installment of Between the River and the Ravens. So glad you are here joining us today. I'm James. This is my wife, Leigh.
Shalom.
So glad you could join us, whether it's live or later on. We hope that you can really take something from this important topic.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say it is going to be a little controversial,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just a much needed word, and we just hope that you can glean something from it. Maybe we can share some of our personal testimony with you and hope that you can enjoy it.
Amen. We're also here for those people that may be wondering how to do this, or what's clean, what's unclean, and what's the big deal. We're hoping you're here to learn, and if you're here about learning, then that's who we're here for. We don't want to offend anyone. Unfortunately, though, if you come to look for something to be offended in, you're probably going to find it. So let's just go forward with the learning and the love of Yahuah, and try to figure this out together. Are you ready?
You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
So this week we are going to be talking about eating clean, what it takes, yes and no, to the certain animals, the diet, even the health consequences for not abiding in that. So let's go ahead and get going.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of consequences. Yahuah created us. He's the grand designer. Shell and I were talking about that previously in our Heart of the Tribe, talking about the tribes and the body system. So we're going to see that it wasn't just that he was like, you can't eat this because I said don't eat it. It's actually for a reason. And it's because he loves us and he wants to protect us. So here we go.
I can click on the right spot. All right,
I
we're gonna start with Noah's Ark. I'm sure most everyone is aware of this story. I find it intriguing when I read through it again. Some things just really stuck out to me. We're going to start in Genesis 7, verse 2. Of every clean beast you shall take 2 to you by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by 2, the male and his female. Growing up, hearing the Bible stories, maybe even seeing it in a movie, it's always just a pair, a male and a female. And so we don't really see this, even though it's right there in the beginning, that, there was actually a set of clean and a set of unclean. And the clean actually had 7 pairs versus the unclean, just the one pair.
The one pair, right.
So we see this verse is very important because it does demonstrate that the knowledge of the laws of clean and unclean meats existed long before they were enumerated by Moses in Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. These were universal laws that were designed to govern what was proper meat for human consumption. Mm-hmm. There are a number of reasons Noah was instructed to take clean animals at a rate of 7 times that of the unclean. First, Noah and his family would have to consume some of the meat of the clean animals during their time on the ark. Secondly, Noah would have to perform sacrifices after the flood, which only could be offered with clean animals. That's out of Genesis 8, verse 20. So I just thought it was amazing to really see that come to life and understand that, there was one pair of unclean, but multiple pairs of the clean animals. You don't necessarily always learn that growing up. And so it's great to have that reminder.
And that number 7.
7 is everywhere.
Yeah, right.
something to it.
Mm-hmm.
Deuteronomy 14, verses 2 through 3. For you are a holy people unto yahuah Eloheka, and yahuah has chosen you to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. You shall not eat any abominable thing. Being peculiar is, I guess, something you don't necessarily have to learn, grow up to be. We both, growing up, felt peculiar. We didn't always fit in with the crowd. The world leads you to believe that that's a negative thing, but this verse right here comforts me and reassures that it is a important thing to be peculiar, to be set apart from the world.
Mm-hmm.
As you can see, I am wearing our peculiar shirt. This is one of our own designs that we've made through our company, Mimi's Servant Heart. We do have links to that as well. If you ever wanted to check out some of our faith-based apparel, you can find that through our YouTube and Facebook.
And being set apart does make you peculiar, because you're going to see that's going to set you apart and away from pagan holidays, eating clean, keeping Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things set you apart, and that's a good thing. Even if you may meet resistance from others that want to be of the world, you don't have to be. Oh, and so it begins, right? The links for everything we're going to be sharing are in the description. So if you click there, I got this from, I think, a Church of God website, and it is a solid picture that you can print up. So that is in our links. If you would like to print this up as one solid thing, it does go through the clean and the unclean. And we're not going to read every word on it, but there are things we need to hit on it, and I'll let you start with the...
There's too many creatures out there to go through the entire list, but we'll pick and choose a few.
Right.
So out of Leviticus 20, we see, you shall therefore distinguish between clean animals and unclean, between unclean birds and clean, and you shall not make yourselves abominable by beast or by bird or by any kind of living thing that creeps on the ground, which I have separated from you as unclean. And you shall be holy to me, for I the Lord am holy, and have separated you from the people, that you should be mine.
So we already see that the reason we're to eat clean is so that we can remain holy. And we're going to see why eating unclean would make you unholy. You going to read that?
Leviticus 11, 1 through 2. And yahuah spoke unto El Moshe and to El Aaron, saying unto them, speak unto the children of Yasharel, saying, these are the beasts which ye shall eat among all the beasts that are on the earth. So it was very important that they taught this message to the people, that they would grow up, pass this down through their seed, that they would know what is acceptable and what is not allowed to eat, and to honor our Father, Creator.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but we're going to see that it's because that He loves us, that He specified, yes, everything that He's made is good and serves a purpose, but that does not mean that you should eat everything. We have to have understanding and self-control and the knowledge that He gives us, right?
That's right.
All right.
So here we go. We're going to start in Leviticus 11, 3 through 8. Whatsoever parts of the hoof and is cloven-footed and chews the cud among the beasts, that shall ye eat. Nevertheless, these shall ye not eat of them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the hoof, as the camel, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof. He is unclean unto you. And the coney, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the hare, because he chews the cud, but divides not the hoof, he is unclean to you. And the swine, though he divide the hoof and be cloven-footed, yet he chews not the cud, he is unclean to you. Of their flesh shall ye not eat, and their carcasses shall ye not touch. They are unclean to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see here there's a list of a few more. These are so tiny, I'm going to have to squint just to read them. Of course, you've got the certain mammals, the antelope, buffalo, caribou, deer, all those moose, reindeer, sheep. Those are all clean. And then when you get to the unclean side, coyote, dog, hyena, wolf, cat, lion, tiger, donkey, horse, badger, elephant, gorilla. I don't know about you, but I'm not really that intrigued on trying those anyways. So I'm glad they're on the unclean list.
Well, and we're going to see the reason most animals are on the unclean list has to do with either they're a scavenger or they have such a short digestive process that they do not filter out toxins.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to move on to water animals. It's picking up in Leviticus 11:9 through 12. These shall ye eat of all that are in the waters, whatsoever has fins and scales in the waters, in the seas and in the rivers, them shall ye eat. And all that have not fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all that move in the waters, and of any living thing which is in the waters, they shall be an abomination unto you. They shall be even an abomination unto you. Ye shall not eat of their flesh, but ye shall have their carcasses in abomination. Mm-hmm. Whatsoever has no fins nor scales in the water, that shall be an abomination unto you. A few of the fish got bass, barracuda, bluegill, carp, and cod, halibut, one of my favorites.
All on the clean.
Mackerel. Clean. Yeah, these are all part of the clean. Pollock, salmon, sardines, snapper. Some of the unclean: catfish, eel, marlin, shark, squid, swordfish, clams, crab, crawfish, lobster, mussels, oysters, scallops, and shrimps. Some of the most popular seafood out there.
Things we used to eat a lot of, huh?
It doesn't have to taste bad for it to be unclean. So, and I know just looking at the shrimp itself, how you have to devein them. Once you really think about what that is and just all the toxins and garbage of the ocean that they have eaten, filtered through, you're digesting that as well. So
a lot of these I found in my research are used to help clean up spills, like toxic spills in water, oil spills, and we want to eat that. No, not when they're actually their purpose is to be the garbage collectors of the ocean, right? They serve a good purpose because Yahweh did make everything good for its purpose. And most of the time it's to protect us, not for us to eat it.
I think I saw a video where they filled up an aquarium, I don't know what it was, but a very dirty liquid. And they had oysters in there. And within minutes, it was sparkling clean.
Absolutely. So, and then people want to eat that raw. Just wait. Yeah, sea roaches. That's right, Shell. Y'all has to just hit his head a lot like, oh my goodness, I made this thing look so awful. I made it look like an actual roach. And you mean to tell me that didn't deter you from eating it? Like some of those just, I don't know why we want to eat them. A lobster is terrifying looking. I'm sorry. But you're right, Brother Lee. He did create everything for a purpose. And they're actually there for us, but they're there to protect us and to keep our water clean, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the flying animals, picking up in Leviticus 13 through 19. And these are they which ye shall have in abomination among the fowls. They shall not be eaten. They are an abomination. The eagle, the ostrich, the osprey, and the vulture, and the kite after his kind, every raven after his kind, and the owl, and the nighthawk, and the cuckoo, and the hawk after his kind, and the little owl, and the cormorant, and the great owl, and the swan, and the pelican, and the gier eagle, and the stork, the heron after her kind, and the lapwing, and the bat. So a few of our popular clean flying animals would be, of course, chicken, dove, duck, goose, guinea,
Grouse.
quail, sparrow, turkey. And then the unclean, bat for one. Let's see here.
Well, and we
Crow.
hear about what the bat caused recently, supposedly. We're definitely not supposed to eat them. I don't.
Talk about rabies. I'm sure that's one of the main reasons we would not want to digest creatures like that.
And we're going to find a lot of that out.
All right, next, clean insects, which for whatever reason seems to be the popular push these days in the food market. I know I'm seeing more and more commercials and celebrities endorsing all kinds of bugs. So it's coming to a grocery near you, apparently. Picking up in Leviticus 11:20 through 23. All fowls that creep, going upon all fours, shall be an abomination unto you. Yet these may ye eat of every flying creeping thing that goes upon all fours, which have legs above their feet, to leap withal upon the earth. Even these of them ye may eat. The locust after his kind, and the bald locust after his kind, and the beetle after his kind, and the grasshopper after his kind. But all other flying creeping things which have 4 feet shall be an abomination to you. So, not all insects are bad. We know Yahuchanan, John the Baptist, lived off locusts. Lots of protein in some of these bugs. So just be sure you know what's acceptable and what's not. It may be one day all we have to rely on. So, learning this list of all of God's creatures, is going to be important for that in times when we're out possibly hunting for our survival, when there are no groceries open. So a few of these insects of clean, like I said, locusts, some crickets, and grasshoppers.
Ugh.
Thank you. That's going to be an acquired taste for me.
I can't acquire that taste, I don't think. So I wanted to cover Peter's vision. When you're on this journey, if you're new and you're trying to feel your way through being obedient to Yahweh and following Torah and eating clean and keeping Shabbat, people are going to bring this up, right? And I just want to touch on it briefly and explain what I feel is happening here. So on the morrow, as they went on their journeys and drew nigh unto the city, Kepha, who is Peter, went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry and would have eaten, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance and saw heaven opened and certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Kepha, kill and eat. But Kepha said, Not so, Adonai, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spoke unto him again the 2nd time, What Elohim is cleansed, that call not common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Acts 10:9 through 16. Now, I've seen a lot of different discussions about this, and the one that I understand the most is that it was considered unclean food to eat if an unclean person made your food. One of the words Gentile. So if a Gentile made your food and you were a Pharisee, or a Jew or a believer, and this Gentile made your food, the food was then unclean because the person was unclean. I don't see that it was that he ate a pig or anything like that. I think it had to do with it wasn't the person that was making the food unclean. Mm-hmm. So that's my understanding of that.
Becky here. We have done so much better physically by eating Yah's way. we have been affected by GMOs, which have been a challenge to avoid.
That is absolutely true, because everything pretty much is GMO right now, and we have to be so very careful. And the least that we can do is avoid eating the things that the Father says don't eat. And I think if you'll advance, we're going to get into a little bit of what that's about.
Yeah, I noticed on ingredient labels now, they are just basically straight up saying
it's
bioengineered ingredients. So they're not hiding it anymore.
If you can grow your own food, do it. Even if you just start with a little container garden. That's how we started years ago. If you can grow anything, one thing I've learned from Shell that has been vital is to learn what things to grow that you can use medicinally, because when everything does fall apart, or even when it's not falling apart, it's very important to know what herbs and vegetables or fruits you can use. Shalom, Doug. Shalom, Shell.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining. It's good to know those herbs and things that you can grow, that you can dry and drink in teas or make fermented drinks. Shell has a wealth of knowledge, and hopefully we can have her on sometime down the road to do a talk about some of those herbs and different things that you can ferment and make that are medications, for safe medications. Okay, so getting into this picture for me says it all. When I was growing up, my grandparents had pigs, and I was utterly disgusted with them all the time, because that's not just mud that they roll around in and eat. and it's, you think about that's the number one thing people will fight you about. It's the minute they find out that you eat clean, they say, "What, you don't eat bacon?" No, we don't. We do not. So
we did,
but we don't now. And boy, was it wrong for me as a home health nurse. 11 years in home health, I told James when we started cleaning this out of our system, right? I would preach to my patients every day. Almost every patient, I had to say to them, please cut back on the pork, because it causes so many bad health side effects, especially if you're already disease ridden with congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And little do we know, most of these diseases are coming from eating unclean. I am just so upset that I was a nurse that would say one thing and do another, but I'm not like that anymore. I'm pushing Yah's plan and Yah's food and what's good for us, and everything that he set forth for us that is good to eat and consume. He just thought we could have a little more sense and listen to the designer. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Okay. So pigs and most of the other animals that don't chew the cud are scavengers. They will consume anything they can reach, including their own feces and carcasses of their dead, and even will cannibalize their own children. Yes. Reading that absolutely disgusts me, and knowing that, and people will fight you over eating that. So it only takes 4 hours for a pig to digest their food. And that's from mouth out. Okay. 24 hours for a cow, meaning the pig does not even clear out deadly toxins or parasites from their food, which is more than likely their own waste material with their food. So that's not just mud they wallow in. I wanted to say that, and there's that saying comes to mind, you are what you eat. Just because it tastes good doesn't mean you should eat it, right?
Or happy as a pig in poo.
Yeah. Do you want to eat that? I don't think so. So there's common toxins and parasites in pork. And I can tell you, you can cook them as much as you want. And a lot of these you can't get out of the meat. And that's why people get sick. And it's awful. Three primary parasites pose a public health risk from the ingestion of raw or undercooked pork. And I'm also going to say cooked. You can't cook some of this stuff out, especially now with our misuse of antibiotics, our over prescribing of antibiotics, and then people being uncompliant with taking their antibiotics. Each of these things grow and get worse, right? So Trichinella spiralis, Taenia soleum, and Toxoplasma gondii. And you do not want any of these severe gastrointestinal issues that you may not be able to get rid of. And a lot of these happen from the larvae of the worm, and you can actually end up with tapeworms. Online, you can look it up. We did not put this clip in, but there's actually a YouTube video of a woman pouring a Pepsi, isn't it a Pepsi?
Yeah, Pepsi on a brand
raw
new pack
pork
of pork chops.
And it absolutely has these worms and parasites wiggling up out of the pork.
Within a minute.
Shell says, I've heard that the taste resembles human flesh. Cannibalism was so prevalent in the nations Yah's people were not to mingle with. Amen. Not only that, Shell, but we were going to briefly bring up that they're actually making this meat right now and saying that it tastes just like human flesh. My questions are, number one, how do they know what human flesh tastes like? And number two, why would we want to do that? I don't know. It's disgusting to me. But wasn't it also they're growing some meat from celebrity
they're
cells?
Taking celebrity DNA and growing meat so you can apparently eat your favorite celebrities. So
disgusting.
It's just the abominations that are pigtailing off of this.
And here's the reason. Another reason: consuming pork can occasionally cause a disease called cysticercosis. I can't ever say it, but it does lead to epilepsy. Okay, epilepsy is a life-term seizure disorder. Okay, people don't realize this, but epilepsy in children can actually be a direct result of this parasite in pork. Absolutely. There's also a high content of saturated fat and cholesterol, high sodium, the grease solidifying in the pan, after you cook all that mess. That does the same thing in your arteries, right? The salt content is because they have to cure the pork with so much salt to kill all those parasites that want to grow in it, live in it, and strictly from its own grossness. Like, ugh.
Well, just a few years ago, we actually had to have a plumber come and blast our pipes because they were so solidified. All the times we would cook bacon or pork chops, something like that, and pour the grease down the drain. And so that's a 2-inch pipe.
They say if you do that with dishwashing liquid, it helps. No, it doesn't. And just think about that same grossness in your arteries, your vessels, your small brain vessels everywhere throughout your body. Those fat globules float around, but then they can connect to each other and actually make these clots, that clog your arteries. That's what that is. It's bacon grease. So pigs are primary carriers also of that tapeworm I'm talking about, a form of hepatitis E virus, porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome. Like you see the whole list here. I got this and other good information on Dr. Axe's website. And again, these links are in our description. Each one of these parasites that you see here and viruses can lead to serious health problems that last forever. He put that can last for years to come. I'm going to say you can fight with a lot of these until you are no longer here, until you pass. I cannot tell you how many patients in home health I would beg and plead with as they're on oxygen. Their legs are swollen to look like elephant legs. And, they've just eaten half a package of bacon this morning and can't understand why there's so much fluid in their legs and in their lungs and why they can't breathe. and they will still eat that mess. They'll still do it. I know, Doug, we can't believe we used to eat it either. Like bacon wrapped shrimp. I mean, what? Let's just eat all unclean things at one time. I feel like that's where we were at one point in our life. And now, I'm kicking myself because I was a nurse then and knew better.
And it makes sense that that's what society pushes.
Mhm.
They want to rebel against what is right.
Absolutely.
And so they're going to find the most off the wall
It's like,
way to do it and
tell
to
me I
glorify
can't
it.
eat it. I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat this unclean food wrapped around that unclean food. I'm going to show you I can do it. Yeah, you can do it, but it's going to affect all of your body systems, including your skin. Like, think about eating the greasy pork and zits. I mean, there are so many things that come from that grease.
That's definitely, as our eyes were being opened, was just more confirmation that Easter and Christmas were not days of Yah. They were not to glorify him, because what's the default meat? Everybody's going to have their ham, their honey baked ham or glazed ham for both those events. And so, why
eating
would
the
you
abominable food to celebrate the
you would
Son
not
and the Father
glorify him with that meat. So that was just
Chris's Chris's. That is so good, Chris. He's got here: locust in the word equal judgment of Yah. Wild honey equals the word that becomes bitter in the stomach. Yahukanon preach this hard message of repentance. Amen, Chris. And that's why we're here. We can stop this. You can change what you're doing at any moment. You can stop and eat clean and be set apart and keep the Torah and repent. Absolutely. I love that.
That's the key. We've all probably fallen short and
I'm going to fall short in 10 minutes, probably.
Well, I'm just referring to these unclean foods,
right.
And, we're guilty of it, but we've repented and we're not looking back. And it's not an issue with us. We don't crave it. We know that that's what the Father wants. And so we're vigilantly trying.
This is so true. This is what we were talking about. Putting a shrimp in a glass of sewer water and they'll clean the water in no time. There's a video out there showing this and several other ones, and then we want to eat that. I mean, come on. So then I moved on to unclean water animals that we're talking about. Marine animals without fins and scales. All our bottom feeders and cleanup crew of the lakes, rivers, and oceans. This one study here, and I've also got that in a link. The largest cholera outbreak in the United States occurred in Louisiana from August through October of 1986. The symptoms of cholera are explosive diarrhea leading to rapid dehydration, unconsciousness, hypotension, and death. This is no joke, because if you're elderly or if you're very young, cholera will kill you. It is so absolutely horrific way to go. Also, what was the culprit for that? The incriminating meals were found to include rice noodles with shrimp, pork, vegetables, mussel soup, pig blood coagulated with vinegar, and salty brine shrimp with mixed vegetables. Oh my goodness. Do you see all of that? No wonder they got cholera and there were so many sick. And here we go, just like Takumba had just shared, shellfish can be placed in a body of water that is contaminated with cholera bacteria, and they will purify the water. Shrimp, oysters, crabs, scallops, mussels are particularly efficient at this. They filter large volumes of water every day. Sewage laden with chemicals, toxins, and harmful bacteria, parasites, and viruses become concentrated in those shellfish, and the cause of cholera outbreaks in several areas has been traced to contaminated shrimp, crab, oysters, and clams. And there's that another link that also we have that in our links in the description. Sorry. So this is one I had a biology teacher that actually worked on a boat during doing her doctorate. And it was to investigate a bacteria called Vibrio vulnificus. And I will never forget about it because at that time I was taking summer classes to try to get ahead in nursing school. So I was taking classes year round. I did 4 years in 3 years. Just because I was a single mom and I had to hurry. I needed to graduate. So she shared her study with us, and it, wow, blew me away. So this Vibrio vulnificus causes acute gastroenteritis from eating raw or undercooked shellfish. Mainly oysters is what they were investigating, and it causes severe vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. And the people that get this generally then are allergic from then on to shellfish for the rest of their life. And the problems is as your allergy to it progresses, you can end up needing shots for anaphylaxis. It will actually close your airway off completely and you can't breathe. So also you got to worry about necrotizing wound infections that can occur in injured skin exposed to contaminated marine water. So you can get flesh-eating bacterial wounds. You know, I know you've seen that in the news lately, and it's absolutely disturbing, right? Oh, hi, Rob. Glad you are here. Epishot. That's right, Doug. My aunt and a cousin both have to get epi shots. And once when I was in Florida with my aunt, we had to take her to the emergency room because we had tried to verify at the restaurant that they were not cooking the French fries with the shellfish, and they lied, and it almost killed my aunt. They had absolutely fried the French fries in with the shellfish, and it almost killed her. So also invasive sepsis can occur after eating raw or undercooked shellfish, especially oysters. And everyone loves oysters, right? They're bad. They will absolutely kill you. And we used to love them.
Not me.
I used to love them. I'll correct that. I used to love them. Really, I didn't. I just wanted to eat them because everyone else ate them and said they were great, you know, and, you know, you're cool. I'm drinking something. I'm eating something that I know that's another one. Y'all, it's like, I literally made this thing look like snot in a shell and you're going to eat it. But people do. It's insane. Okay, let's move past Vibrio vulnificus. We get it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're the nurse and knows how to say this and what it is.
Right.
And can explain it to me.
I'll try. So now we're going to move on to unclean flying animals, and all are scavengers eating roadkill and rotting flesh. That should be enough description right there. Don't eat that. And the reason is they are the road crew. They are the cleanup crew. We need them. They serve an awesome job for us to help keep our environment clean, right? Because without them, there would be dead roadkill everywhere all the time.
Infections like we haven't seen probably.
But the thing is, they can carry back into environment and towns these diseases, exposing people and other animals to pathogens. Carcasses that they feed on could have rabies, but also other bacteria, viruses, and toxins that typically are annihilated by a vulture's digestive system, but maybe not. And I focused in on vultures, but I would imagine every scavenger flying bird pretty much is about the same, right? So salmonella, all of these cause severe abdominal illness and pain, and as well there could be some anaphylactic reactions. So, as we see in the current world events, we aren't sure about the transmission of flus, influenzas, and viruses to humans. However, we see these in many unclean animals, including these different types of influenza A, currently endemic in animals like H1N1. I know we've heard about that. H3N2 in pigs. Different strands of those are found in humans, H398 in horses, H392 in dogs. We're not supposed to eat dogs or horses. Like, as you're reading through these lists, it should become painfully apparent and obvious as to why they're on the unclean list. You know, it's not because Yah's a mean Yah and he's just like, I know this tastes good, but you can't eat it. It's for our own good. It literally is for our own good. Direct infection from this can occur from exposure to saliva, mucus, or feces from infected birds. And although bird infections among people are rare, however, human infections can happen when enough virus gets into a person's eyes, nose, or mouth, or is inhaled, and I would speculate, or when is consumed, because we are not made by our Creator to consume unclean foods. He gave us a digestive system that will digest animals and fruits and vegetables that are on the clean list. He did not give us the capabilities to deal with these toxins, parasites, and bacteria that are going to be in the unclean foods. It's just that simple. He made us, he wrote the directions, he gave them to us, and we have a choice. We can follow them or we can be disobedient and be sick. And that's what has happened. That is exactly what has happened.
Yeah, when your food comes with a warning label, it's probably a reason.
Right. So our current pandemic, the current event that's happened, is speculated to come from consumption of a bat. Now, whether or not that is the key to this, you shouldn't eat a bat. Don't eat a bat. I mean, I don't know why that's a thing, but don't eat them because they absolutely can carry rabies, and most of them do, and they don't affect them. But if they were to bite you, scratch you, or you were to eat them, you're going to have that. And I'm going to tell a quick story. When I was 5, I was attacked by a dog, and it was a horrible situation. I was literally had my face ripped off and was wrapped up in a chain and my head chewed on like a chew toy. And the woman, fearful, it was not anyone related to us, but she had came with her dog to talk to my grandmother, and the dog attacked me. And she unhooked that dog and drove off. So after the 200 stitches in my face and the additional 300 in my head and my hands and various other places, I got to start my first round of rabies shots. And I went through 25 rabies shots in my stomach. And I barely remember the sutures, but I do remember the rabies shots. And that is not anything anyone would ever want to go through. And luckily, I think it was within hours before my second round, because I was going to have to get 50 of these shots. But it was before the second round was supposed to start. They found the lady a state away and had to euthanize the dog to see if he had rabies, which he did not. But they had to go ahead and start those shots, because if you get rabies, you're going to die horrifically. So there was no waiting. We couldn't wait for them to find this animal. But this is another reason why you don't want to eat any of these animals that are scavengers. You don't know if they're carrying rabies. And I can tell you, you don't want that. You don't want any of that. And it is amazing. I went through that shell. Another reason I know Yah has a purpose for all of us. He truly does. And this is our purpose. Oh, unclean insects, another one I never thought I had to be talking about. But as James said, watching the news, there's all these plants that are starting now that they're processing bugs at, and they're making bug burgers and bug whatever. Why? Other than they're trying to take away from us the things that are on our clean list by our Father and give us all the abominations that we're to stay away from. So we absolutely are against eating bugs. Don't do it. And I shouldn't have to tell you this, but A lot of them carry E. coli, and E. coli is a bacteria, a very difficult to kill bacteria that lives in poop, and there's no other way to put that. And another one where I've had so many countless patients in home health that get this infection from eating other things, not bugs, but other things, and getting E. coli from undercooked pork and undercooked other food. And they end up on IV antibiotics and it's just, I've watched body systems shut down from this bacteria, and people die, you know. So another reason Yahweh has put what's clean on the clean list, what's unclean on the unclean list. He does not want harm to come upon us, right? I promise you, you don't want any of these bacteria, virus, parasites, fungi. That's another thing that's almost impossible to kill once you consume it and it's in your bloodstream. Though most ingestions of edible insects tend to be harmless. And this is from the poison control website. You can look that up, but I went ahead and put the poison control number in here because that's a good thing to have if you're having any kind of poison reaction. But this was actually put in, and I read a whole story on here because a lady's son accidentally ate a stink bug, which you wouldn't think was that big of a deal. But this child ended up with severe vomiting and diarrhea and had to be hospitalized to get fluids. Everything was fine afterwards, but yet again, another reason not to eat bugs. So several proteins identified in both some shellfish and insects can trigger allergic reactions in people who have a sensitivity to these compounds. And I can tell you that reaction is anaphylactic shock, needing an EpiPen, just like Doug had mentioned. So the insects that can cause allergic reactions include silkworms, grasshoppers, locusts, cicadas, mealworms, and others. I found it interesting that locusts and grasshoppers were on here. But like Brother Leigh mentioned, it might not be the bug locust that was on the edible list because it's definitely one that can cause this sensitivity and reaction. And like I said, those reactions can range from mild to severe, and a severe, serious reaction is anaphylaxis, and that can occur and be life-threatening. And I've actually been working in the ER when somebody was brought in an anaphylaxis shock, and there was nothing we could do, and it was from eating a peanut. So those allergies are serious. And anaphylaxis is trouble breathing, wheezing, feeling faint, throat or facial swelling, clammy skin, rapid heart rate. And I thought it was hilarious, and I put this in there. If you have any of these symptoms after eating insects or shellfish, call 911 right away, and they put the poison control number in. But whoever thought you would have to say, if you're eating insects and you have this reaction, call poison control. But that's a good thing to have all the way around. It's so funny. Don't eat bugs. Bugs are gross. Oh, this one, let me tell you, this is a hard one. There's hard numbers, and I'm going to just preface this and say almost everything on this is from eating unclean, and I've done it, and I've had some health issues that I was able to get over, but they definitely were exacerbated from eating unclean. So looking here, and I think these numbers were from 2018. They're always so far behind, but 1 million people who will have a heart attack or die from coronary artery disease this year. 1 million people in a year. And coronary artery disease is clogged arteries. And I can tell you, pork is number one reason culprit behind that. 16.5 million Americans aged 20 and older are living with coronary artery disease. Or heart. Yeah, coronary heart disease. That's the same thing, artery. Same thing. So That's 20 years and older. Think of that, just a diet bad from birth up. Think about how that's impacting you health wise for the rest of your life. That's why y'all set these plans, these directions. Our torah to us is to save us from ourselves, right? It really is. I think if people had this put to them in a way where if y'all had said, if you eat this, you're going to die, maybe that would have made a difference. I don't know. If people would still be defiant, I'm going to eat this and I have the right to have diabetes if I want to, 795,000 people will have a stroke this year. That's clogged arteries in your brain. That's throwing a clot from your heart to your bloodstream. It can go to your brain, to your lungs. Those globules of fat from our horrible diets. I'm constantly worried about the damage I did prior, and always looking at detox things that you can do that help detox. And we have some links for that as well in our description. 356,000 cardiac arrests that'll occur outside a hospital each year. 23 million adults, 15% adults who smoked, and so that one's not as high as you would think it is. Smoking in the U.S. 56 million people 40 and older who are eligible for cholesterol lowering statins. So that means there's 56 million people that are age 40 and older that are having to be on cholesterol lowering statins. Wow, that's pork. That cholesterol is fat and pork.
And being 2018, this is pre-CV, so
yeah,
I'm sure these numbers are not even the same.
38% adults were obese as of 2014. 103 million adults with high blood pressure. 6.5 million living with heart failure. And that's age 20 and older. 20. That's insane to me, and that just shows you there's no exercise. People are not getting their children up and moving. They're not having them eat fruit and vegetables. I know when we have one of our grandsons over, it's impossible to get him to eat any fruits or vegetables. Absolutely impossible, because people just want what they want, what tastes good. They don't care about what's good for your body. And we've got to get into that mindset that the Father knows what we need and what we don't need. He made it all. Of course he would know, right? You ready for the next one? Oh, I'm going to let you read this one.
You must read your labels of food and research companies. There are a lot of things put in foods that are not anything you would want to consume. So please do your own investigating into food additives and preservatives. We have listed some links in our description, and I would suggest you can find them all over the web. There's some things that we decided not to even bring up here just because they're so grotesque and it's just awful. So
the worst abomination in your food or in the current thing that was pushed. You can look it up and you probably know what we're talking about.
But start reading your ingredient labels. It might take a few extra seconds at the grocery store, but you'd be surprised if you even know or understand what some of that is. They're hiding a lot of things inside our food, and to eat clean is
flavor enhancers.
Way more difficult than you would think, even by them hiding it. Sometimes it's not just listed in your face. And so we have decided that it is extremely important before every meal that we say a prayer and that we ask for Yah to bless this food, because we don't always know what's in it. Of course, we're making our best effort to stay away from anything unclean.
Diligence, yes.
But like we said, stuff is being hidden. And so with the help of Yah, he will make that right. Mm-hmm. And so it is important to always bless your food beforehand as well.
I always say a prayer because a health incident from a supplement last year landed me out of work and very ill for about 3 or 4 months. But let this food do good and no harm. Let it be food from you that is good for my body and do no harm. And you would be surprised or not be surprised. I mean, when you ask, he listens. And when we bring him into all of our needs and all of our situations, he is going to do what you're asking for. He just really is.
You had brought up an interesting point earlier this week, just talking about, the people at the very beginning of the Bible, especially pre-flood, 300, 500, 700, 900 years old. Some of these men and women were living, and that's just unheard of in our day. And so she got to think, is it possible that these people from birth were growing up honoring and obeying the Shabbat, getting that day of rest, that restoration? They were avoiding unclean foods. They may have never had tasted an unclean food. Is that what preserved them to live to those years? I don't know that we'll ever know that again, because what's in our society today, it was just a very interesting idea that could have been the hidden key to longevity, is some of these things
and
that
keeping Torah,
exactly,
the Shabbat,
yeah.
taking the day of rest, like we talked about last week. You got to rest. And like Jakumba says, remember that blood is also forbidden. Yes, you are not to consume the blood because the life is in the blood. And actually, the body, the way that our digestive system works, it can't break down the blood. It cannot. Anytime, I don't know if you've ever had nosebleeds or anything like that, and blood's running down into your stomach, it hurts your stomach terribly because your body can't filter that. It can't deal with the blood. So there's a lot of reasons to that. But yes, and people that want their bloody steaks and raw meat, we're not supposed to do that. The life is in the blood, and our body can't digest blood. It's not made to do that.
Yeah, my steaks might not be as tender and juicy as they used to be, but I am making an effort to make sure that blood is all gone. It's important.
Right.
The last thing we did want to touch about, I know Nina had mentioned last week, she wanted us to just briefly touch on our thoughts with wine. And so we're just going to briefly touch on it. But anyways, we do not think there is a problem with a glass of wine. Mm-hmm. After our rebaptism, we made a new covenant of sobriety, a sober mind, and lifestyle. So the only spirit within us is the Ruach HaKodesh. Ultimately, we each have to make our own decision on this matter, and I suggest taking it to the Father in prayer. There is no judgments from us, only love and support. The main reason wine can be an issue is how they age it. A lot of times they will age it in pork, filtered it in fish guts or skin, etc. We don't really want to know what else that could be. So it is important to make sure, if you are going to have wine, to get a vegan wine, or make sure it's labeled kosher, and that will eliminate any of that worry. As well, it's going to make a huge difference in how you feel afterwards, just cutting out and eliminating those impurities that you find in a lot of these wines bottled all around the world. So.
And they sneak it in everywhere, don't they? The pork, like even gelatin, what we're talking about, checking your labels. You got to check your labels. Boy, do you got to check your labels.
It's even found in cheese. A lot of cheese
have pork in it. Mm-hmm. I mean, the deception is far, deep, and wide, and you have to put your due diligence in. I can't say that word today. So we had one last verse here, 1 Peter 1:13. Wherefore gird up the loins of your mind. Wow, that's a picture for you there. Gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Yahusha HaMashiach. So to me, I want to keep my mind clear and sober so that there is every bit of space just for Yahusha and just for the Father. I don't need the spirits. And I always wondered growing up why we called alcohol spirits. Well, it makes you think you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof, right? That's a spirit within you. You know, that's just how I feel about it. And again, it's another thing that your body really has problem processing alcohol. Anything in moderation is one thing, having a glass of wine, but we're not supposed to drink until we're drunk. We put this in here because when I found it, I was like, wow, boy, doesn't this hit home? Obedience is praised if it fits traditional norms, but condemned if it fits scriptural instructions. You just hang in there. If this is something you need to do and want to do, you want to be obedient, you want to follow Torah, you want to be on the narrow path, you just do it. Whether people are going to praise you or not, the only person that matters what they think is Yah. It's your journey. It's between you and the Father. It's not between us and him. He's not going to ask us about what you did, and he's not going to ask you about what we did. He's going to ask each of us what we did personally. So I'm praising you for your obedience. I'm praising you that you're here. The Father is as well, because all of these things were put in place by him so that you could live a long, happy, and healthy life, or what his will is, and feel healthy, not feel bogged down, because all of these things that we've covered today, all of these awful viruses and bacteria and parasites, a lot of these parasites can live in your body until you're gone. You can't ever get rid of them. Although there was a link, we've got the website in here off of Parable of the Vineyard. They have a wonderful video series over there, if you look, called Temple Maintenance. And Joshua?
Josh Truex.
Josh Truex has a website.
He's dedicated
Roots,
his.
What's it called?
I think it is Modern Roots. He's dedicated his ministry to health, fitness,
detoxing the toxins out of your body, including the current thing that's out there, the ability to detox all these harmful things out of our body and system so that they can work great. And what a wonderful series that is. And his website has all different kinds of cleanses and a lot of information he gives for free of how to follow certain detox programs for different things that you want to get out of your body. And that's also in our description box.
Yeah, you got chemicals from the sky that are falling on our food. There's a whole nother list of
water,
unclean ingredients that get put in food besides what we went over today. This is just scratching the surface, but we did want to provide this knowledge for you, and we hope that you have the passion to research for your own. Once we realized what our food had in it, we were on a mission to really dive deeper and learn how to avoid that, because we knew we didn't want any part of that. And it does take sacrifice. It takes, boldness, as well as just effort to
self-control.
It's
about self-control.
It really is.
The fruit of the Ruach, you have to have self-control over diet and what you put in. Also in the links are, did you put the Daniel fast in there?
There is a
link. The Bible diet is in our description box. There's a wonderful link called the Daniel fast, and it's a diet as well. All these bad diets out there. How about we just try the scriptural Bible diet? What if we try the scriptural diet given by our Creator that made us? And it's going to help you feel better. It's going to give you energy. We do believe in fasting, intermittent fasting. It's wonderful for your body. It's wonderful to connect to the Father, and for him to be able to completely fill you. That's what fasting is. You're giving up your fleshly desire of feeling full and consuming to consuming only the Ruach, and you can't feel any closer to him than you do when you're actually fasting, and everything is cleared out except for him. And what an absolute joy that is. So we would like to end again with our prayer. We always read our Sefer prayer
We have a
3
new one
times a
for you
day.
this
We
week.
do. We chose to jump forward because they're usually this each day of the week has the same morning, noon, and night. But I love this one because of the spirit of wisdom. So if you would like to read with us, we're going to start at the top in the Hebrew. Baruch atah Yahweh Sebaoth, Berachah Shamayim V'haaretz, Elohim shel Avraham, Yitzhak v'Yaakov, Eloheinu v'Al-Kadosh, Echad Yasharel Elohai, v'Yishi Asher Natan Lanu, Haruach Chokmah. Blessed are you, Yahweh of the armies, creator of the heavens and the earth, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, our Elohim, the Holy One of Yasharel, my El and my salvation, for giving us the spirit of wisdom. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. It has been such a blessing to share this with you, and I hope we've, made some sense, opened your eyes about a little bit, maybe told you something you didn't know, and had a good time. Maybe you could send this to family and friends if they truly are wanting to understand. I think it would be very helpful to see it from this side, And
if you have further questions or if you want to share information with us, we would love to hear that. You can email us at betweentherriverandtheravens@gmail.com or reach out at our Facebook or YouTube page. So please like those and subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Of course, we also have plenty other shows on the Heart of the Tribe Network. A few more this week, starting tomorrow morning. We've got Leigh with Her Mercy Poured Forth. So looking forward to all those, and we just hope that they're blessing you like they are us, and we hope that you come back and see us next time. Thank you so much, and shalom.
Shalom.